So in 7A we got our filtering in place. It's great. I can expose my filter. I can apply, multiple filters at the same time, see how many I'm applying and so on. The filter stays open. This is all great, right? Now, we also want to have the ability to sort these column headings, at least some of them, right? Some of them don't make sense. For example, this is a collection, right? So to try and sort the medical history, well, that doesn't make sense. But some of the columns, like the name, obviously, doctor, things like that, we probably want to be able to sort by. I should mention that you'll find a number of tutorials out there, even the 10-part one that I asked you to do, that has a bit of a limitation, that if you combine filtering and sorting in a single view, if you're not careful, what happens is if I resort, I lose my filter. If I change my filter, I lose my sorting order, right? They don't play nicely together automatically unless you take steps to do so. So I'm just going to mention up front, that's our goal. As we add each of these, we start off with filtering, we're going to add sorting, we're also going to add paging. And as we do all this, we want to make sure that they work together in harmony. We'll even take to the point where I can go off to another page, right? Maybe come to work with doctors. And when I come back to my patients, it persists and uses the same sort order, the same filter and everything else that I left, right? That's our ultimate goal. But we're going to get there a step at a time. In 7B, we're just going to add sorting to the patient index view, right? So I'm going to be able to click the column heading here for patient, maybe for age. I might as well do it for coverage and for doctor, right? The medical trial means yes or no, right? So I'm not going to try and sort by that. I already have that in the filter, so we can filter by the medical trial. So that's one I'm not going to bother with. Same with the medical history. I mentioned that as well. Okay. All right, so to get sorting in here as well, remember what we basically focused on is the fact that it's wonderful the way Link works, that we can, by having our query start off here with a nice iQueryable, okay, a patient, we were able to add, hey, I want to throw in a where clause. Ooh, I want another where clause. I want a whole bunch of different where clauses, and then we can add an order by clause as well. And so that's what we're going to basically do. We also talked about the fact that in the view, we added some IDs to certain things. For example, our button here that we click for submitting the actual form, okay, I gave it a name value pair, right? Name is action button. Value in this case was filter, because this is the one that says I'm going to apply a filter. Well, we're going to use that same logic. We'll have additional action buttons inside the same form, right, where the values will be what I want to sort by. And then I can easily examine my action button and see which button did the user click. Do they ask for sorting by age, or do they ask for applying a filter, right? And I'll be able to tell that apart. Again, I've mentioned it before, that's one reason why I've wrapped the form itself basically around more or less the whole page, right down here to the end of the table. So everything will be inside the form, so all the buttons I click inside here will get submitted their name value pairs along with everything else. Okay, so I'm going to maybe start over here in the controller, because what I need to do, remember what we did so far is we added all these different parameters here, our search string, our foreign keys for our filters, right? Well, I'm going to add some more parameters here as well, right? So let me just carry on my list. I'm going to go comma, and I want to add, maybe I'll bring them down so we can see them on the screen together. Okay, a string, right, for the name value pair of which button I've clicked. Remember, the name is action button. I'll have multiple buttons all with the same name, and I can check the value to see which one I clicked. I also want to know the sort direction in the sort field, because it's important to know what the last sort was, right? Because if they click, maybe they sort the age column. They click age, right? They sorted it in ascending order. Well, if I click age again, it's to reverse the order. So I have to know what the last sort order was so that I can handle that properly. So I've added these additional, let me get that back up there, these additional parameters up top. Okay. All right. And notice I'm setting the sort field to be patient. Okay. That's going to be my default sort. When the page first loads, I'll have it sorted by the patient name, right? And my default sort direction will be ascending as opposed to descending. That's why I've given default values to those two. Okay, so what I'm going to do, maybe I'll come back at this point. We're going to look at our column headings here. So right now, yeah, I'm using display name for, which has the advantage it's dynamic. If the model class, the data annotations in the class change, it just automatically gets a new display name and so on. Great. However, going forward, I need to know what the column headings are going to be so that I can respond to the request to sort by them, right? So we're going to get away from that approach and use some predefined names that I'm going to work with, right? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these into action buttons, right? So each and every one of them will get a name value pair. The name is action button, and they'll look like a link, but they're technically, each one will be a submit button, the ones I want to sort by. So my summary here, of course, is my patient, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this line, input type is submit, name is action button, value, this is what will display on top. It'll just be patient. Okay, that's my column heading that I'm currently using, right? And then, but I'm going to use this class here, the Bootstrap class, to make it look like a link, even though it's technically a button. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here for age, right? Except, of course, the value will be age. And coverage. And then same thing for doctor. So maybe I'll run it now just to quickly show you the change to the look of the column headings as I've turned them into these submit buttons, right? So coming to the patient. So you see now they look like links, so it invites me to click on them. Ooh, these don't look right. Medical history and so the styling just doesn't match there. Well, that's okay. I can easily fix that, right? So let me just stop running again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them as a submit button, even though I'm never going to click on them, right? And the value will be medical trial, but without a name, okay? And I'm giving it a different class here, button toolbar, right? So that works fine. And then I can just have it, it will appear consistent with the styling of the others. And this one was my medical history. Okay, so I could run it again, but you trust me, that will be now consistent in the look. It just won't be a link, so it won't invite the user to click on it, right? Okay, that's the best I could find. I played around with a whole bunch of options. How can I make it look similar, that it lines up properly? And that one seems to work, so I'm happy to live with that. One other thing I want to throw inside the form, it could be anywhere. I could put it at the top, at the bottom. It doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll throw them up here at the top, right inside the form tag. Remember we said we want to keep track. We want to have the form itself remember what the last choices were, settings were for the actual sort order, right? So I'm going to have two hidden inputs. So the data is stored there inside the form, but it doesn't display on the screen at all. Sure, if they view source, they can see it, but that doesn't hurt anything. It's not like security information. So, okay, I'm going to have two name value pairs in here, the sort direction and sort field, and I'll put the values just using view data. So in the controller, I'll make sure before I finish the index action, I'll store the proper values in these view data key value pairs, right? And that's it. That's the only change I have to make to provide sorting in the actual view itself, right? So I'll save that, coming back to the controller, right? So I added my new parameters, but that's not all. I need to define, because I'm going with a set column headings, right? I'm not going to be able to play with them anymore unless I update it everywhere I need it. So I might as well define them here. I'm going to make my own list of these sorting options. And this has to correspond to the column headings that I set on top of the page, right? So I'm going to make a little string array of sort options, okay? Patient, age, coverage, and doctor. And of course, those are the ones that I turned into these links here, right? patient, age, coverage, and doctor. Those are the ones that actually have the action name as well. Okay, having it in the array just makes it easy for me to check if it's in this list, basically, right, or this array. All right, now everything else here stays the same. The code we had in place for filtering, populating our drop-down list. The link query doesn't change yet. We're just going to get patients initially, defining our iQueryable. Then we had this area where we defined all the filters as needed. Are we filtering by this, that, the other thing, and we add the necessary where to each one as we go. All right. Then we added our feedback on the filters. I don't really need white space here. Maybe I'll tighten that up. So after all that, now, just as in a link query, or in even an SQL query, the order by has to come after any where clause. So we're going to add the order by next. Makes sense to do it after. Okay, we've got all the where clauses that we might want in place. So I'm going to have a bit of logic here to figure out, okay, what are we sorting by and how, right? So first of all, I'm checking that action button. Remember, they all have the same name, the filter one and all my column headings. So if I actually have a value that the form was submitted, right, then I'm going to come into this if, okay? And then I check, well, did I click one of the column headings for sorting? My sort options, that array I made earlier, if it contains the actual value for the action button, patient, age, coverage, doctor, right, then I know a sort was requested, okay? Okay. Now, if the sort field, remember that's that hidden input I put up here that stores the last sort field, okay, and direction, right? If that is the same, then I'm just reversing order on the same field that I was before, right? So all I do in that case is I change the sort direction. I flip it from ascending to descending, right? Back and forth. Okay. And then what I do is here is where I store the value, okay, for my sort field from whatever the action button was that was clicked, right? So that way, going forward, I'll be able to store that back in the hidden input inside the actual view. Okay, so that's got everything basically ready. Now it's just a matter of setting up the actual sort, right? You could try to rearrange this code in a few different ways, but this way just makes sense to me, so I'm going to stick with it. Basically, I again just have a series of decisions, right? Okay, so if my sort field is age, right? I love link in many ways, but one of the limitations of link, if I want to add order by, I have to either do order by or order by descending, right? I can't just pass a parameter to an order by and say do it this way or the other way. So I have to decide either I'm going to go with my current query I've defined so far, that we're going to add a order by or an order by descending, right? So that has to be a separate decision. So first I'm sorting by age, yep, and then in each one of these I have to have an if to decide am I ascending or descending, because it changes the way I write the dot order by, okay, standard query operator itself. Okay, so if I'm ordering by age, I come in and order by descending date of birth or ascending, right? Same thing if I do coverage, okay? Then I'll do the same decision. Am I doing ascending or descending? Now I decided to throw in here, right? There'll be a lot of people that have the same coverage. So I'm also going to add my then bys to make sure that the patients are listed in alphabetical order within a group, so to speak, if they're already have the same coverage. Similar logic down here for the doctor. If I'm going to sort by doctor, okay, then I'll order it by the doctor's last and first name. But then if there's a whole bunch of patients all for the same doctor, I might as well have them ordered as well by the patient name, right? So that's all the logic that's going into here. So, you know, I don't end up executing all this code. It'll only go into the one, right, that matches my my actual sort. Here's my default, okay? If it wasn't any of those, I'm just going to sort by the patient name, right? Again, I have to decide, am I doing ascending or descending? But other than that, it's straightforward. Last but not least, I store back into view data the current sort field and sort direction. back into those hidden inputs they go, so that next time on a round trip back there and back again, okay, I'll know which was sorted last time. All right, so I'm just going to run this. And I don't have to do anything special because of how it's set up using this form. Okay, I can apply a filter at the same time. So if I filter for, I don't know, the letter S inside the patient name, right? So now I have a filter applied. I've removed some patients, okay? But I can keep on saying, well, no, I also want to sort them by age. And it doesn't interfere with the filter. Whereas a lot of the other approaches, you lose it, right? I can sort it by the patient. Even with the filter, I can sort it by the doctor. And of course, all the patients that have the same doctor, you notice they're alphabetically in order. Now I am showing the full name format, which doesn't jump out at you that it is sorted. But if you look at it carefully, see the last names are in alphabetical order within the group that all have the same doctor, right? If you wanted to, you could discuss it with a client and say, hey, maybe we should list the patient names in formal name, last name, comma, first name format. Then the ordering will be more obvious. But, people tend to like to look at it and read David A. Stovall or whatever. So it's up to you. It's up to you and your client how you want to present that. But it's functioning completely, and away we go. All right. So if I clear everything, then I go back, it clears both the sort order and the filter, so I'm back to the original sort order. Now, my default, you see, is alphabetical by the patient name. So everyone with the same last name here, Anthony, okay, comes first, then, right? So it is actually sorted, even though I haven't selected any sort, because I've defined now, and didn't have one before, but now we have a default sort order. Okay, all right. The last thing that is in my copy-paste file, just so I can bring them to the top of the list. Okay, we talked about the fact that here on the doctor, right, we did go through and we used this bootstrap collapse, so we can nicely show the whole group. Here I've got 7 different specialties the doctor is accredited in, right, using this bootstrap collapse. We said, well, maybe here for our medical history, we should do the same thing, right? So that's easily done. It's following the exact same type of code, right, that we did for on the doctor. I'm just going to come in here down in the index. It was right here, okay, where we just did a for each loop through the conditions, added a BR tag after each name so they stacked on top of each other. So a lot more code to use the bootstrap collapse, but it certainly gives a more professional look to the user interface, right? I already walked through how this all works, so I'm not going to take time to do that again, but just in brief, we count how many there are, okay? And I'm not going to say none, right? I just won't show anything if there aren't any. If there's only the one, we just show the name of it. If there's more than one, then basically we put together the list with the BR tags, but we stick it in this div, which we expand or contract, right? So we'll actually show the name of the first one, okay, with our little badge here to show how many there are, so we can see that, and we can expand it and collapse it by using the built-in bootstrap collapse that's available in the bootstrap framework, and away we go. Just to fix that up on my other 2 patient views, okay, the details and delete, I have the code right here. So I'll just replace that one DD tag pair here for my patient conditions, again using the bootstrap collapse. Do the same thing on details. There we go. If I come into patients, now of course it's sorting alphabetically by name, but if I come in here, edit this patient, check off, I don't know, a whole bunch of things in their medical history. Boy, this poor person, they've had a rough go. Okay, now I see my nice expandable bootstrap collapse here. Shows the name of the first one. Same thing, works the same way on details, right? And away we go. Okay, well, that was not really related to sorting, but I thought I'd throw that in here in our discussion as well. So that's it. We've added sorting and filtering together. Next, we'll get into paging.